Staying with security-related matters, Safana local government area in Katsina State has become the latest community to enter into a formal peace agreement with armed groups operating in the region. This development follows similar arrangements in Jibia, Basari, and Damusa local government areas. The Rise News correspondent confirms that the peace pact was signed following a negotiation brokered between traditional authorities alongside community members and the bandits themselves. Well, the agreement includes 20 conditions. Key among them is an end to violence and abductions, along with ensuring that farmers and herdsmen can access farmlands and towns without harassment. The peace deal will see residents of neighboring communities have free access to hospitals, markets, and other essential amenities. This is the latest non-kinetic agreement between locals and terrorists. Only recently, notorious terror kingpin Bello Turji had reportedly released 32 kidnapped victims following a peace meeting with some clerics in Zamfara State.
Right, to analyze the security implications of recent peace deals between local councils and armed bandits in Katsina State, Wing Commander Musa Salmanu, retired, is a security expert, and Dr. Sani Abdullahi, Shinkafi, Executive Director, Patriots for the Advancement of Peace and Social Development. Thank you, both of you gentlemen, for joining us on News Night. Let me start with you, Dr. Sani Abdullahi. I do gather that you are part of, striking or entering into these peace deals with bandits. What guarantees really can you give Nigerians, especially those in the most affected areas, that these peace deals have actually come to stay, that these people, these bandits, will not take up arms against the state again?
Yeah, you see, banditry has forced significant danger in the entire northwest region for more than a decade now. And any peace deal you have entered with a armed bandit, it will fail woefully. These armed bandits, they are not reliable, they are not honest, they are not sincere. Whatever peace and reconciliation you enter into them, at the end of the time or at the end of some period of time, it will collapse. Zamfara State government, previous administration have entered into this peace deal with this bandit. The administration of Abdullahi, administration of Bello Matole, even in Katsina State, the immediate past governor of Katsina State, Aminu Bello Masari, have entered into peace deal with this armed bandit, but it has collapsed. So, in accordance with the Islamic teachings and tradition, in all the scriptures of the Holy Quran and the Hadith collection, there was no any prohibition for going into peace dialogue with armed bandit or a terrorist. There was no such thing. So even the Islamic clerics visiting the Bello Turji in his enclaves, Islamically, there was no any such prohibition. So the clerics should visit to the Turji hideout is a serious failure on the part of the government. It is to show the failure of the security apparatus in Nigeria. If a Islamic cleric can visit Bello Turji in his hideout 3 times last month, and the chief of defense staff in many occasions have been making some motivational speeches saying Bello Turji days are numbered. The Minister of Defense, Abakar Badaru, visited troops in Zamfara State. He declared that Bello Turji should be killed or should be brought alive. All those things have collapsed.
All right, Dr. Shinkafi, thank you for that. Let me bring into this conversation retired Wing Commander Musa Salmanu. Thank you for being on the show tonight. But you've heard him. But there are supporters who say that these agreements are working. In fact, in Katsina State, Safana is the 4th local government to go into such agreements. Some vow that the previous 3 have been working. But on the other hand, you have critics who say that this serves as a dangerous precedent and that it is effectively rewarding many years of violence and kidnapping. What do you say, retired Wing Commander?
So let's start from the people that are affected. Maybe those that have been kidnapped and have been in the bush for so many months. Some were told for even more than a year or so, even years. For those, they wouldn't care about the semantics at whether there was a peace deal or something. The most important is that they have regained their freedoms and they're back home. Let's talk about the farmers that have the opportunity to go back to their farms because of these so-called peace deals, and the locals or the immediate communities that are able to go back to a semblance of normality of their work. However, that is not where the issue is. The issue is this is an erosion of the basis of a state. Right. Now, when we talk about the basis of a state, which is that the social contract, which says that the individual out of free will concedes some of these rights that they have in return for protection, in return for ensuring that their lives, properties, and dignity are protected. Now, if that fundamental or the basis of the state is attacked and sustained, and to an extent to which the state cannot push back, then we have a fundamental problem. And until that is addressed, whatever cosmetics that we do, whatever short-term gains that we are having now, must be interrogated in a way that ensures that
you think they are short-term and not sustainable.
Well, the first scholar alluded to, speaker alluded to so many instances. He has stated that in this same state that we are talking about, there have been issues like this in terms of saying that there are agreements with bandits. But how come years after we are back on the same path? So that means there is something fundamental that was not done, or something fundamental that is not being taken care of. We have to go beyond the optics of saying that, okay, there is a peace deal with bandits. Which camps of the bandits are we talking about in all those places? Is there any centralized command, some kind of leadership that have all come and agreed that this, and what, because there are, in everything that we do, what is the effect? What effects are we trying to send out there? That there are negotiations. From what we are reading, of course, open source, it doesn't show that these bandits, like what happened in the Northeast, are coming to say we have surrendered. We are seeking them out and saying, okay, come, we are ready to kind of negotiate. I agree, yes, it's a community-based initiative, but it even points to a bigger danger. Is it perhaps showing that the community no longer trusts the state to protect them? These are questions that we have.
So many questions begging for answers. Let me come back to you, Dr. Sani Shinkafi. Well, it does seem that you're both on the same page on the issue of whether to negotiate with bandits or not. But, those arguing for, especially considering the fact that the military is not even involved, the DSS and the other security forces are not involved in this particular negotiation between the council chiefs and the bandits in the case of Katsina State, as against what happened in in other parts of the Northeast, where DSS and security forces were involved. Do you think there's a fundamental mistrust of the security forces on the part of the communities, that would explain why the security forces are not involved in this current negotiations? And what does it say? What does it indicate?
Yeah, you see in this issue of peace dialogue with the locals and the armed bandit, some of the locals in the rural community have lost confidence on the part of the securities, because these bandits have been rampaging, holding these rural dwellers to ransom, displacement of people, migration of these rural communities to the urban center, and at the same time, all the socio-economic activities in this rural community have been grounded. There is food insecurity. All the primary health care have been burnt to ashes. And so the locals have left to no option, maybe on the other hand, than to go into negotiation with them. But it will just a short term. The bandit will now try to retreat and go to the livestock market, sell their roasted cattle, buy some food items, and also buy some arms and ammunition, and maybe at the end of the rainy season, they will strike again. So the only way this peace deal will have a big sustainable, it is if this bundle will now submit themselves to the full non-kinetic methodology or approach, de-radicalization, rehabilitation, and reintegration of this bandit into the society. Anything short of that, if there is no disarming, all the captives in their hideout should be released. So that is the only way you can now say that these people are reliable. They have to bring all their arms and ammunition as what they did in the 2016 in Borno State, Operation Safe Corridor. Anything short of that, the government or the security apparatus should go into total kinetic military forces against this armed bandit in the Northwest. So they are not reliable, they are not sincere, they are not honest.
Retired Wing Commander, why do you think that the community leaders have not thought about the downsides? For them, they just want their people to be able to have free access to their farms, you know, and have a somewhat normal life. But it does seem like they are desperate to get, you know, normality back to their, back to their society. So let me just piggyback on what he said to ask you that question. How do we make this a long term? He also mentioned Operation Safe Corridor. Can we really vouch that Operation Safe Corridor of de-radicalization, reintegration, and all of that has actually yielded any results positively?
You know, so the instance of communities engaging and trying to kind of broker a peace is survival. It's survival. It's the natural instincts of humans is self-preservation. We want to preserve ourselves. And so we can, when you are subdued by something, you just want to give up and to kind of say, okay, how do I survive before I can think of any other thing? Now, talking about or trying to compare with what happened in Operation Safe Corridor and so on, like I alluded earlier on, there was, first of all, outlaws cannot, you don't pamper outlaws and bandits as they are called, criminality in the terms of, so Northwest is issue of criminality that got some kind of confidence with little grievance and so on and so forth. Now, these are not radicalized in terms of ideology or anything. Okay. They are just criminals that saw opportunity and put in some little grievance here and there. And because they can get away with it, they continue to do that.
But there's always that argument, sorry to cut you there, still remaining with you, that this kinetic approach really would not go far. That this non-kinetic that actually is reflected in this 20 terms and conditions that the bandits have put forward may just be the most sustainable way out. They're asking for health, good education, access to markets and all of that. Don't you think that is a more sustainable approach?
Well, you see, when you say kinetic or non-kinetic, right, you can't, they go hand in hand. Because there are root causes, there are underlying issues that brought about all this. That's why I talked about the issues of the grievance. There are the grievances which are lack of good governance, which could only be solved by, in terms of good governance, ensuring that communities get the basics, ensuring that community feel a sense of inclusion, ensuring that ensure that community feel that they are part of the nation and they feel also protected by the state itself. Now, when you're doing that, you can't divorce, especially now that we have reached that stage. When you reach a certain stage where there is open confrontation, there is violent conflict, there must be some element of suppression of that conflict to a certain level before you now bring all about this. Or as you're doing that, you're securing the places and ensuring that those stabilization processes start in, those developmental issues start to go on. But you can't, when people are feeling at the peak, when people are feeling that they are outlaws and they can get away with it, then you call them for negotiations when on their own terms to a large extent. to say, okay, we're doing A, B, C, or we'll not do A, B, C, and we say, okay, well, that's fine. Just go ahead. We just want some semblance of peace.
All right.
I think it's not yet time. It's time for kinetic means, alongside with these non-kinetic measures.
Thank you. Dr. Shinkafi, let me come to you. If the local community or local communities, as we have it now in 4 local governments in Katsina State, are able to negotiate with bandits, does that not suggest that we do know who these bandits and criminals are? So does it also not point to a failure or some sort of negligence on the state and the security apparatus? I mean, what does this really say? If community leaders are able to bring criminals to the table and are pampering them, like a word that's being used here today, it does suggest deeper issues, doesn't it? And where should the security apparatus now come in? Because we even hear from the state government saying, we are not the ones negotiating, we are not a part of this. It is the local leaders.
Yeah, you see, this local, when you look at the Sapana peace deal with Bandit, the local government chairman is involved. If the local council chairman is involved, definitely the government is involved, no doubt about it. Because the local, looking at the 3 tiers of government in Nigeria, federal government, state government, and the local government. If the local government council chairman will be part of the peace deal, automatically the local government chairman cannot go into that peace deal without the consent of the governor. So the local community are obsessed with the nefarious activities of these armed bandits for many years. So they find it, they're left with no option than to go into this local short-term negotiation with this armed bandit, to allow them to have access to their farmland, to allow them to not be adopted on the highway, to allow them go to market, because even on the highway, these armed bandits kidnap people for ransom, extort farmers, impose levies, displace people in their ancestral homes. So the locals now and the rural and the community leaders and the religious leaders in this locality, because this thing had happened in Shinkafi local government, in my own community, we have entered into this short-term deal with the Bello Turji. At the end of the day, because his in-law was arrested by military, he now break off the peace deal for over now 9 months. He was terrorizing the whole community. Even as I'm talking to you now in this studio, Tubali community in Shinkafi local government, all of them were displaced. They have more than 10,000 inhabitants. They were all displaced. They are in Shinkafi local government. So this is the danger of going into negotiation with the locals and the bandits. They are not, as I have said earlier, they are not reliable, and they want to go, you know, let me tell you, Sapana share boundary and other part of the Katsina State share boundary with the Niger Republic. So they will now find their way now to retract and buy more arms and ammunition at the end of the rainy season and go back to their dirty days. So these are the dangers of reconciling with them.
Thank you very much.
So I suggest the security agencies should tighten their belt and go into total military action against them.
Great. Thank you very much. You both are on the same page, and as a matter of fact, on the same page with the Katsina state government that says we do not negotiate with bandits. I have to say thank you very much to both of you, gentlemen. Wing Commander Musa Salmanu is retired, is a security expert, and Dr. Sani Abdullahi Shinkafi, Executive Director, Patriots for Advancement of Peace and Social Development. Thanks for joining us.